Hello there, this is DBT, and these are the rooms. And alright, let's talk a little bit about Asphalt 8. Today there's not gonna be gameplay, instead, as you can see in the title, I'm gonna be trying to help you to do better MP tuning for your cars. In case you're not aware, MP tuning just means upgrading your cars in a way that they will perform okay in multiplayer without having to take the car to its pro rank, which is obviously very expensive nowadays. Now there's a few different topics that we need to talk about this whole thing, but first let me give you a small introduction as to why I thought of making this video. In our Discord server, we have this whole section for MP tunes where people post the tunes that they managed to get for different cars and all of that. And over here, it became really obvious that there's some MP tunes that were purpose-made and some others that people just stumbled upon as they were just upgrading the cars randomly. And I think this is one of the main things that needs to have a bit of a differentiation of what are you doing when you're upgrading a car. Do you want to upgrade a car with the idea of it performing good before it's at pro level, or are you just aiming to pro the car eventually? Because that will determine how you should upgrade the car and what kind of performance you can expect. Now, the very first thing that we're gonna talk about, it's what I call the upgrade or gain percentage when you're upgrading a car. Now for this, I have some screenshots over here of the Aston Martin DB9 Coupe. Now this is a car that I actually, you know what? Okay, I had the wrong picture up. This is a car that I had at stock. This rank that you see is the rank at stock, and I decided to upgrade the drivetrain from 0 to 10 so that you can see easily what I'm talking about over here. Now, I want you to pay attention. Obviously, I upgraded this with ads because fortunately this car you can upgrade with ads, but I want you to pay attention to the green portion over here. Now, white is where the stat is at the moment. Green is the gain that you will get by upgrading it. Now, this is at level 0, so see, when we get to level 1, there was a bit of an increase, but keep looking at the green thing, exclusively this green part. Then the next one, next, and you see how this starts to be bigger and bigger, to the point where this is way bigger than it used to be before. Now, what does this mean? This is obviously at the 10th level, but I'm bringing this up because this is what I mean by the gain when you're upgrading these cars. So the very first thing over here, according to my screenshot, from level 0 to 1, there was a gain. If we do the math, there was a gain, technically a loss because the smaller the number, the better, right? But anyway, a gain of 0.07 from 4.60 to 4.53. It decreased by 0.07, and this is the number that I have over here. Now, I took the liberty of doing the math of how much it was gain or lost, depending on how you want to look at it, on each one of the levels, and I put it all the way over here. So, with this you can see that from 0 to 1, there was a gain of 0.07, from 1 to 2, 0.8, then 0.1, 0.11, 0.16, 17, 17, 17, 25, and 19. So you can see that these numbers were steadily increasing with some small exceptions, but for the most part, it goes increasing. And in fact, I added this as a percentage compared to the original gain. So the gain from upgrading from level 1 to 2 compared to level 0 to 1, there was an increase of 14%. So basically, this is 14% bigger than this. Then for this level, this was 42% bigger than this one. Over here, we're talking about 128% bigger. We're talking about that it's more than double than it was, obviously, because double would be 0.14 and we're talking about 0.16. And you can look at all of these numbers, all of the increases, and by the time you're reaching the level 9, you upgrade to level 9, you can see that the increase over here was quite a lot, almost 4 times as much. Really? 1428? Yeah, around a little under 4 times as much, but it's a lot of increase. Now, if you want to see it in a more visual way, because sometimes the numbers alone don't necessarily paint the picture, here it is. This is what this looks like. On level 1, there was nothing. From 1 to 2, the increase was of 14%, 42%, 57, so on and so forth. So you can see that by the time you're upgrading to level 9, the increase is quite a lot compared to any other of the upgrades. I'm not saying that this is 257% higher than the base value. No. I'm saying how much was the gain compared to the original increase. Why do I bring all of this? Because I want you to understand that any upgrade that you do, in the first levels of the upgrades, the gains are going to be small. The later stages of the upgrades are going to be considerably bigger, and generally speaking, the 9th upgrade is going to be the best of all the upgrades. In most cases that I've seen, the 10th and final upgrade, the increase, while still being better, you can see over here, while still being better than level 7, for example, level 8, it's still nowhere near as good as the upgrade on level 9 it was. So this is just for you to get an idea as to how the more you upgrade a car, the higher the gain that you get per each one of the upgrades. Now, why do I bring all of that in relation to those upgrades? Well, because I want to talk about something that I have called the flat tunes versus hill tune, let's call them. So, whenever you are upgrading a car, and this is why I mentioned at the beginning that you have to decide what type of upgrade you want to do. Because, for example, I'm going to show you a flat tune that is for a Mercedes-Benz that over time I've been upgrading without the idea of MP tuning it. Now you can see that maximum rank is 1410, its corresponding bracket, but I actually have it quote-unquote MP tune for the previous bracket. It's at the top of the previous bracket, 1322, so oh my god, this might be actually pretty good, right? Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I never wanted to MP tune this car. I actually stumbled upon this quote-unquote tune, but because of that, I have been upgrading pretty much every single part of this car equally. So you can see I have it at 5, 5, 6, 6. Now, why do I call this a flat tune? And I've talked about this before, but I figured out that the best way to show why I call it a flat tune is by using this little chart that I made over here. So we said that the upgrades were 5, 5, 6, 6. This is a flat tune. Because you can see over here that it's extremely flat. It doesn't have any real peaks anywhere or any real valleys anywhere. It's very flat. It pretty much all of these things were being upgraded at the same time. This is a flat tune. What is not a flat tune? What is a hill tune? Let's say that for some reason I upgraded this like that. That is not a flat tune, but we'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. Now, normally you're gonna encounter flat tunes whenever you're upgrading the car all at the same time, because obviously upgrading the first 5 levels of any car is relatively easy because it only requires the parts, it doesn't require the wildcards or the kits. So for the most part, you're gonna end up upgrading pretty much any car first to 5, 5, 5, 5, and then start upgrading higher, which is exactly what happened over here. I started upgrading the drivetrain and the exhaust by using the kits. So that created this flat tune. And the reality is that the performance of this car will not be good. Now, how do I know that? It looks like it's at the top of the bracket, so in theory it should perform right. I mean, it should perform pretty good, but the reality is that it doesn't. And for that, I have yet another little chart over here. So, these are the stats for the car with tuning kit. I did not take the stats without the tuning kit because I think most people will be using tuning kit anyway, and I think that's where the car gets to be ever so slightly more competitive. But anyway, here's all the stats. The rank currently, it's 1322. And you can see the acceleration, top speed, you can see the handling, nitro, and I did a total speed, which is the sum of top speed plus nitro, so that you know what is the maximum speed the car will be going at when it's on the ground using nitro, either perfect nitro or triple tap nitro. Now, why does it matter to say it like this? Well, because I have a little bit of a comparison to make against a car like the DS Servolt. The DS Servolt, it's a Class D car that at its pro rank is over here. It's in the same bracket. Even though this is 2 points higher, it's still the exact same bracket. So in theory, the performance should be comparable, right? Well, it's not. Now, there's always going to be a ton of little variables between different cars because some cars are better at one thing than other, but this gives a pretty good idea. You can see over here that the acceleration is not comparable at all. Maybe the Servolt accelerates really good, but this acceleration looks pretty bad. We're talking about twice as long for the acceleration. Now, granted, Asphalt 8 does lie a little bit on the acceleration, so this take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, now let's look at the top speed, 330 versus 323. Well, it sounds like, oh, this is actually better, right? It ended up being faster. Meh, sort of. When you look at the Nitro, however, 21 over here for the MP tune versus 36, there's a big difference. And when you add them up, you end up that the top speed for my quote-unquote MP tune, it's 351.8, 352 versus 359. We're talking about 7 point something kilometers an hour of difference. It's definitely quite a bit of a difference. Not too harsh, but it is there. Now, if you want to compare it with yet another car, I also brought the Morgan Aero. Same thing, it's a Class D car, this is its Pro rank, and let's look at the numbers again. Then we have that the acceleration 1.59, it's actually not too far away from this, so it looks like this is a relatively decent acceleration for this rank. And this acceleration is terrible. We're still talking about that it's pretty much twice as long for the acceleration. Now, again, looking at the speed, you can see that overall, the total speed between these two that are at their Pro rank, it's exactly the same speed. Normally, there might be a slight variation of 0.1, 0.2 kilometers an hour. But again, when you compare it to this, it's quite a bit of difference. Now, again, 7 kilometers an hour might not be too much, but when you take into account the entire picture that we're talking about, lower speed and pretty damn slow acceleration, then turns out that this car is not good for multiplayer, not at all. And this is what I wanted to make clear with this whole idea of a flat tune, because all of the upgrades were flat, or rather the chart looks flat. This is not a good tune. Now let's look at the opposite. All right, before we look at the opposite, sorry. One last thing that I forgot to mention. This ties up precisely with the idea that I upgraded to level 5, 5, 6, 6 in all of the upgrades. And this matters with the first chart that I showed you, because we're talking about that all of the upgrades are around this rank. The gains are not as big as they could be. Why is this showing value? Oh, this has a little error over here. Well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so we're around this level of upgrades, so the percentages are not as good as if you took the car to level 8 or level 9 or 10, which I already lost over here because of a little bit of a key error. But anyway, that is why this matters, because these upgrades are very middle of the road. This car is not specializing on anything. I took the liberty also of adding the tires, upgrades the top speed and handling, suspension upgrades handling in nitro, drivetrain, blah blah blah. You get the idea, right? So this tells you that this car is not really focusing on anything. All of the stats are very middle of the road because all of the upgrades were very middle of the road. And this is why it's a flat tune, it's a bad tune. Now for real, let's look at the opposite example. And that is, of course, the car that you saw at the start of the video, the Peugeot 9X8. Now, this is a car that I had been wanting to pro for a while, but what I decided to do was instead MP tune it, because I figured, hey, maybe I can get it to a decent MP tune. And this is why I say that from the get, you have to figure out what you want to do with the car. Do you want to pro it? Do you want to MP tune it? Because the way you upgrade the car will be different. Now, if we look at the upgrades over here, we have it at 9, 2, 10, 7. Now, if we put this in our chart, we said 9, 2, what? I already forgot. 10, 7. Jesus, 10, 7. That is a hill tune or mountain tune or spike tune, whatever you want to call it. I call it hill because it can be a little lopsided, but anyway. You see how this is a completely different picture. It no longer is flat at all. It instead has high and lows, highs and lows. This is what you want in an MP tuned car. Now, why is that? You can see that my tires is at 9, so that means both top speed and handling are very, very focused. Then suspension, handling, and nitro, not at all, very little upgrades. In drivetrain, we have 10, acceleration and top speed, so we're talking about the top speed. It's the one that is being most focused by the upgrades that are at the highest level. So the top speed is pretty much at the maximum that the car can do as if it was a pro. Now, it might be suffering in other like handling and nitro, but that's why I said that MP tune, you have to focus in what you want to upgrade. And of course, on the exhaust, there was some upgrade to the acceleration and the nitro. So overall, if we actually look at it in game, fortunately the game now shows you this information a bit more visually, and you can see indeed that my top speed is pretty much almost at the maximum that it can be. My handling is middle of the road. My nitro is also kind of middle of the road. Acceleration is almost all the way up there, and like I said, top speed, it's also, and over here same thing, acceleration versus nitro. So overall, I think you get an idea. I'm gonna select this because it shows you in a more visual way that my acceleration and my top speed are very, very upgraded. Not the best, obviously, but very upgraded. While my handling, not so much, and the nitro, not so much either. So this tells you that this car, I tuned it in a way that I wanted to be really fast. This is not the only type of tune that you can do. Obviously, you can also do, for example, a tune that is more focused on acceleration. It will have less top speed. So in that case, maybe you want to upgrade the drivetrain and the exhaust. So let's imagine that I did an MP tune for that. So we may have, I don't know, a 5, 5, 10, 10. So this is still not flat. This is why I call it a hill, because it's not necessarily spiky spike, but it goes uphill. And there we go. This is not a flat tune at all. It might look flat here and here, but the reality is that you can see how it's low here, very high over here. And this is going to be a tune that is focused on acceleration mostly. And it's going to suffer a little bit in top speed, although it does have a bunch of top speed over here. It might suffer a lot in handling, and nitro should be decent, just decent. So again, this is what you want to do when you're tuning doing an MP tune car. And honestly, I believe that the best thing to focus on an MP tune is absolutely either acceleration or top speed. Unless you, the only way that I would recommend for you to focus on nitro is if the car that you're tuning has a crazy nitro duration, like really, really, really good. Because number by number, every time that you upgrade a single kilometer on the nitro, it would be a little bit less expensive in your rank than a single kilometer on top speed. So I would only say focus on nitro tuning if the car is amazing at nitro. If it's bad, don't even bother. And handling, honestly, I don't think handlings matter too much, since for the most part, most cars can do okay by just doing some punch nitro. So yeah, handling is not that important. So overall, the main stats that you want to focus on is either acceleration or top speed. And like I said, this is why it matters to focus on how you want to upgrade your car. Because there's another thing to consider over here. If you are planning to do an MP tune of a car, the best thing that you can do to MP tune it is to the previous bracket where the car actually belongs, which is the case for my Peugeot. The bracket where it belongs is a 1590, but I tuned it for 15, but it's 1501, but the bracket is 1500. Why is that? Well, it just ties to this same idea that I showed you at the start, because the more you upgrade each one of the stats, the more gain you're gonna get from each one of them. So if you're tuning a car for it to be, for example, not that I have a tune for the Peugeot, but let's say that I found a tune to get it at 1410, well, definitely the levels wouldn't be nearly as high. So probably would be, I don't know, let's imagine that I figured a tune that is 4, 5, let's make it a bit more, 3, 2, 7, 7. Let's say that we did that, right? Or even better, let's make it like this. Because that is this is the type of MP tune that I normally do, acceleration and top speed, but mostly top speed. So you want to upgrade these two tires and drivetrain the most. So let's assume this is not a real tune. I haven't tested it, obviously, but let's assume that this is a tune for 1410. Well, yeah, it might leave me at 1410, so it would be 2 brackets prior to the one that this car belongs. But again, I'm upgrading only to level 7 at the most. And if we look over here and upgrade level 7, which would be this one, you can see that the gain is nowhere near as good as I would have if I were to take the car to here. So granted, I could maybe upgrade this to 8, but that is gonna, oh, sorry for the beep, just when I press 8, it beeps. I might take to 8 or maybe even 9 so that it's the highest upgrade, but obviously I have to compromise somewhere else, so this instead of a 7 might have to be a 4. So then you have an extremely lopsided tune that may not do exactly what you want. I don't recommend doing this. Overall, doing upgrades in these low levels, again, upgrading at level 4, yeah, you gain a bunch in the one that you upgraded to this one, but in this one that you upgraded in 4, you are taking a big L in the amount of stuff that you could be gaining. So I hope this is kind of clear. Overall, you just want to have big spikes, but you want 2 spikes to be there. So 9922, for example. I don't know what rank would this be, but this would be a better MP tune than a 5566. This is a bad one. So that is the difference between a flat tune and a hill tune, as I call them. So if you want another comparison, since we were talking about the Peugeot, let's look again, just like we did in the previous one. The Peugeot at my tune of 92107. So 92107, right? This is my tune. Now, same thing, this is the rank at it where it is right now in acceleration, top speed, handling, blah 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 blah. Now let's compare it against a car that belongs in this bracket at its pro rank, meaning at the best that the car can be, and that would be my TVR Sagaris Special Edition at a rank of 1500. Now you can see the acceleration is actually a little worse, maybe just because this car doesn't have as good acceleration as the Peugeot, but you can see that my acceleration is actually better than this one. Now, if we look at the top speed, my top speed is way better, because obviously this being a car in a higher potential rank, since I'm upgrading my top speed, again, remember, top speed over here is my main focus, and top here, it's my main focus. So I'm absolutely putting the top speed to the possible, almost the highest that it can be as if it was at its pro rank. So, because of that, my top speed is way higher than the top speed of the car that is at its pro rank. But then if we look at other numbers like the handling, well, the handling again doesn't matter too much, but the nitro, you'll see that over here, there's the big difference. 21 in my tune versus a pro car that has 40 kilometers, almost 41. When you do the math, you end up that even though my MP tune is focused on top speed, it still ends up being a little slower than a car at its pro rank. And this is true for every car that you MP tune. It will always have worse performance overall than a car that is at its pro rank. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a bad car. You can see that the difference over here, we're talking about 3.4 kilometers an hour of difference. Is it a difference? Yes. Is it a crazy one? No. It's nowhere near as bad as over here where we had a difference of like 8 kilometers an hour. Very different. So it is a little bit slower, but it actually accelerates faster and it has a way higher top speed. So if I end up running out of nitro, I still have some decent top speed to bank on. Now let's compare it against another car in the same bracket. That would be the Rizvani Bistex. You know that this is a really good car. And look at that. Acceleration, I still beat it. Top speed, I still beat it. Handling, not so much. And nitro speed, same situation, so it's pretty much the same. I'm still so much slower than this car, almost 4 kilometers slower, but I do have good acceleration, and overall the car will be competitive. And I have driven this car in this tune in multiplayer quite a bit, and I can tell you, it's competitive. It's not gonna give you wins constantly, not all the time, but it will absolutely do quite alright, and you probably will be able to win some bunch of races with it so long as you drive well enough. So, overall, that is the whole idea behind MP tuning, not wanting to go for flat tunes, instead go for spiky tunes, or like I said, maybe you want a tune that is very lopsided, like this. What you don't want is a tune that looks like this, or a tune that looks like maybe this. Very lopsided, very good in one thing, sort of, but because tires upgrades to thing at the same time is not a specialty on top speed only. It has to be shared, and that is why doing a single point that is lopsided is no good at all. I hope you're understanding this I'm trying to say. I know I'm not great at explaining, but hey, we're trying over here. We're trying. Now here's another example of an MP tune car that was purpose made to be MP tune, and that is my Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. Now let's look at the upgrades, and you will see I have it at 9, 3, 10, 3. So how about we put it in our chart? We said 9, 3, 10, 3. You see exactly what I was talking about. Focus, in this case, my tune is focused on top speed because that is the common thread between drivetrain and tires, that is the most upgraded, top speed. It has some decent acceleration, it has some decent handling, but surely it's gonna have bad nitro, because you can see that the nitro it's the common thread in the two that are not very upgraded at all. So let's look at the numbers over here, and let me put it over here. There we go. And yeah, this is exactly what I said. It's almost at the best top speed that it can be. in spite of the fact that it's in the previous brackets. But obviously acceleration is okay-ish, but where it suffers is on handling, and the most where it suffers is the nitro speed, because again, same situation, is the thing that I upgraded the least. So with all of that being said, as I mentioned earlier, there's some kind of exceptions in regards to tuning cars, particularly with cars that have very strange stats at stock. For example, I'll show you one case. It's a little bit strange. For example, my Enzo Ferrari. Now, this is a car that belongs on the 1770 bracket, but I have it tuned for the previous bracket, the 1680 bracket. Now, why do I say that this is a peculiar case, that it's a weird one? Well, let's look at the upgrades. We have 9, 8, 8, 8. What kind of tune is that? It's a very strange one. Again, let's chart it up so that you can see. We said, what is 9, 8, 8, 8, 8? This is a flat tune. And yet, this car works. Why? I have no idea. Like I said, it's a very peculiar situation on this one. The fact that I could bring all of the stats so high up, we're talking about that we're missing one upgrade here and two upgrades in the rest, and yet this thing actually performs surprisingly good. And I mean it, surprisingly good. I've driven it in some events and all of that, and yeah, it absolutely, it's no king or anything, but it performs good. If we look at what's missing in each one of the stats, you can see that none is hyper specialty type of deal. It's missing a bunch of acceleration. It's missing some top speed. It's obviously top speed is the highest focus, but even then it's missing a lot compared to my other tunes that I showed you. When we look at the handling, still bad, and nitro, not great, but actually not super terrible. This is a flat tune that works. Why? I don't know. Probably the starting stock rank was very low, and there's some cars that are like that. For example, if you want to see another car that has very strange numbers, we can look at the Corvette. Wait, no, the Camaro. Yeah, the Camaro. This thing is another weird case. I haven't upgraded it at all, but you can see the starting stock rank is incredibly low compared to what it can do at a maximum rank. So I'm sure that you can do weird MP tunes with this thing that may work. So this is another exception. If you want to see another exception that works in the completely opposite way, we can look at the where is it? Koenigsegg 1-1. This is a very strange car. Again, I don't have it obviously, so I haven't tried to MP tune it or anything, but the starting rank is ridiculously high. So this means that you can only tune this car to get to the 1770 bracket, and probably you're not going to be able to apply too many upgrades because it's relatively close to that rank. It's closer to 1770 than what 1770 is closer to this, or the distance, I suppose. So yeah, this is probably a very strange car that you cannot do MP tunes for. I don't imagine that you can. It will be a very weird one. So if anyone has information on that, I'll be happy to know about it. But man, it's weird. Now, there's a particular exception, and this one I do want to mark as being something that you cannot rely on because this is going to go away, and that is for cars that are not in brackets, namely my Terzo Millennio. Now, I have this car MP tuned for 1770 in spite of the fact that this is a car for Class S. But as you can see, it's not an 1860 car, it's 1806. This is a car that will eventually get rebalanced. Whether it gets put in the 1770 bracket or the 1816 bracket, it will be rebalanced. But this car is the other weird exception that, like I said, is going to eventually go away. Because any car that falls outside of the brackets will eventually be rebalanced. That seems to be what Gameloft is doing. So why is this a peculiar case? Well, because this is also sort of a flattish tune. 10, 8, 10, 8. Now, let's put it over there. So 10, 8, 10, 8. And there we go. Some people, by the way, were asking me about the tune of this car. There it is. I don't know for how long it will be good, but man, it is a good one. So there you have it. Sort of, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's still sort of spiky in the sense high, low. But it's still very close to the numbers. It's only two points of upgrade difference between all of the stats. Now, this one works because all of these stats, if I were to take the car at Pro, it would be at a rank of 1806. Obviously, that's no good for multiplayer nowadays in the brackets. But because the maximum tune, it's so close to the previous bracket, It's only, what, 30-something points of difference. That means that this car can be upgraded pretty high in all of the stats, and it would be pretty close to the stats at its pro rank. So again, let's look at it with this, and you can see over there, look at the stats. My top speed is all the way up, acceleration is almost all the way up, handling is almost all the way up, and the nitro is the one that is suffering a little bit. So this is indeed a very peculiar car. So if you want to see also a bit of a comparison, I did the exact same thing over here. Terzo Millennio with the rank and all of the stats. And if we compare to something like let me hide this one. We'll compare to the 4GT Mark II, a car at pro rank of 1771, and you can see that my speed is only 2-point-something kilometers slower. That's the only thing. And well, the acceleration is not as good in theory as this one, but then again, the 4GT does have some pretty decent acceleration, doesn't it? Then we look at the Conta Shell PI, same thing, at a pro rank of 1771, same situation, same speed. So you see that my car is not that slow compared to them. And in fact, the Terzo Millennio has amazing nitro duration, but anyway, that will probably change once it gets rebalanced. So this is another one of those weird exceptions where you can tune the car way higher, even if it's a bit more on the flat side, just because its pro rank is so close to a bracket. Let me see. Let me remove the filters. Let me go like this. For example, let's look at the McLaren. Wasn't there this one? It's a better example. McLaren Mercedes MP425. Now this car has not been rebalanced, and in fact, it's only one single point below the maximum rank for the bracket. The maximum is 1772. This is 1 point above it. So that means that if you have this car at pro, you're at the moment screwed, because this thing is gonna get matched with the next bracket, the Class S of 1860. But if you haven't pro this car, this might allow you to do some very peculiar tune that it's flat, and it will work just because it's so close. The pro level, it's so close to the bracket. You probably on that car will be able to do something like this: 10, 10, 9, 10, or even let's say like this. You'll probably get away with that because one single thing that you didn't upgrade will be probably just 1 or 2 points short of the pro rank. So you will have it at 1771, something like that, and the performance will be absolutely killer. This is a weird MP tune. It's one of those exceptions because the car doesn't fall into a bracket at the moment. But like I said, this is not something you can rely on because eventually all of these cars will be rebalanced and they will be put into a bracket. So there you have it. That is the whole thing that I wanted to talk about. I know that this video was way longer than what I've been posting regularly nowadays, but I felt like this was an interesting topic to talk about. I had to prepare obviously a little bit of all this stuff to show the charts and all of that. But I am a firm believer that having some visual aid helps a ton. Oh Jesus. Helps a ton to really, well, visualize what it is that you're doing with the tunes, why some things are better, why it's better to take any particular upgrade part to its maximum or near its maximum so that it increases a lot. And that is things that if I just try to explain without any type of charts or visual aid or anything, it really gets a bit difficult for me to be like, you remember that where I said and maybe this and that. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt. Now, obviously, I'm testing a little bit this car. I had terrible luck at getting knocked down at the start, and like I said at the middle of this video, whatever, that normally any MP tune cars will still not be amazing performance. They will not necessarily be absolute killers, especially the cars that have been already rebalanced. But they should definitely provide you some opportunities to do good. If I had not gotten knocked down at the start, probably I could have gotten a pretty decent result. I mean, I'm in 4th place, but that's 4 out of 5, so that's not fantastic. But yeah, I hope that this has helped you a little bit to figure out how the tuning works and all of that. And if it did, why don't you hit the like button? Come on, I haven't asked you to hit the like button in the entirety of the video. And if you've watched up to this point, that means that you have enjoyed it. So go ahead, and if you found it useful, let me know in the comments, because I would like to make some deep dives in some other topics in regards of the game. Not necessarily particularly teaching moments or anything, just some stuff that I find interesting on the game and all of that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Why don't you check the video that I posted yesterday of Grid Legends? What a fun game. I promise you, it's interesting. Watch it. Or maybe you want to watch this other video I did on the test of the Audi LMS Ultra. But that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Bye-bye.